Hey, good morning everybody. Today I'm going to show you how to make shepherd's pie. Now, I am doing the bare bones version, like as simple as possible, because the purpose of this video is to show you the technique. I know a lot of recipes make it with lamb. Beef is a lot easier to get your hands on where I am, so I'm using that. And I'm not getting complicated with the mixed vegetables, and I'm keeping the sauce really simple. Basically as simple as you can get, alright? And what I like about this dish is you can prepare it in advance, like I'm making it in the morning and I'll just put it in the fridge after. And tonight when it's time for dinner, I'll just pop it in the oven for around 45 minutes and it's great. First thing to do is get the meat fry. I like extra lean. It seems a bit more expensive, but it's actually cheaper because when you factor out the fat, you get more meat for a little bit more money. Now I'm not turning this up too high so I don't have to keep an eye on it while I work on the other components. Just break that up, keep it uncovered, and I'll come back and check on it every once in a while. And I should make a note here, if you do want to dress it up a bit and you want to use mixed vegetables instead of corn or lamb, go ahead. The point of the video I'm doing is for people that just don't know how to cook, so I want to keep it as simple as possible and also that you have to buy as few ingredients as possible. Get your corn, fill it up with some tap water to cover and a little bit. You don't want too much that it doesn't boil over. I like doing mine in the microwave. The reason I'm cooking it before is it's more tender, plus also there's no risk of listeria, which is a kind of bacteria that you can get if you just put plain frozen corn into your dish without cooking it first. I like using panko breadcrumbs because I find they come out better. You can use just plain breadcrumbs if you want. Just make sure you get the fine ones. Yeah, that's one thing I like about a dish like this, is that I can get the topping ready while the meat's cooking because it's a put together for later thing. There's no specific order for this. You can do it any way you want. And then get a glove and you're just going to work the breadcrumbs through your fingers. Break the butter up into chunks between your fingers and just rub the breadcrumbs. So once they just look like rough crumbs there and all the butter's worked in, just set that to the side for now. Beef's coming along. I flipped it over and just break it up with your spatula or whatever you're using, because for this, yeah, you don't want big chunks, you want it as fine as possible. So you're going to cook it till all the water and fat come out. Corn's done. You can usually tell when it starts to get like a nice froth on top like that. So I'm just going to drain that in the sink. Well, not in the sink. I'm just going to drain that in a colander in the sink. And then put it back in the cup, because I will be using the colander to drain the beef as well. Another reason you want to cook the corn is not just for safety and taste and digestion, which are good enough reasons on their own. You want it to release the water before you put it in the pan, okay? Because I am not making an elaborate sauce that would have a capacity to absorb extra moisture. I'm just doing consommé with a bit of cornstarch and water. And if you don't get the extra water out, when you go to serve it, you're going to have this great pool in the bottom of the pan. You'll be really disappointed. Now, one thing I should say is if you're used to cooking a lot with potatoes, and you're making other dishes, yeah, you could just like cook 6 pounds of potatoes and use half for one dish and keep the other half in the fridge to make this the next day. That works too. I just got these for this dish. So next step is just peel, cook, and cool the potatoes. I'm just using my Instant Pot. You can boil them in water. You're used to that, and that's what you like. While potatoes are cooking, the meat looks pretty much done. I did check it. So there's not that much grease, but I still want it to drain because I don't want it to be greasy. So I've got my colander over a bowl. to capture the grease. I don't like doing this in the sink because I definitely don't want grease down the sink. Now, any little bit of fat left in here is just fine because I'm going to be doing the sauce in here in a minute. So I've got a 2-cup cup and put in a tablespoon of cornstarch, 1/4 cup of cold water. Stir that briefly to make a slurry. Add the consommé. Now again, this is the most basic type of sauce. You could also do a little roux with a bit of flour and butter. You could use your own beef stock and so on, increase the quantities, whatever you want. I'm just doing the bare bones to make this work. The pan's still fairly hot. Pour the mixture in. And just stir that till it starts to thicken. You'll notice that it starts to make these streaks of clear and cloudy. When a cornstarch mixture is thickening, you'll notice it gets clear in the thickened parts. So just give that a brief stir and make sure it does that, because you also don't want the cornstarch to settle on the bottom. Okay, so that's cleared up. And you can kind of see it thickening, which is really good. So I'll turn the heat down so I don't have to mind it while I check the beef. How's the beef? And you can see that much kind of greasy water came off, so it's a good thing I did this. So I will go back and add, look at that color, eh? It's nice. So just add the beef to the sauce and get that all stirred up. Now you don't want the heat very high, just around medium for this, but what you're going to do is just stir it until the sauce thickens up and kind of goes into the beef mixture, and you just kind of get a really thick mix without too much sauce in the bottom. Okay, that's looking, can you see that? That's looking just about right, because there's still kind of gravy, but it's not all runny. So I'll turn the heat off and transfer this to the pan now. So just even that up with your spatula and let that cool down. And you kind of tamp it to make sure that the sauce is evenly distributed, but that'll just even up in a minute. See, so you got a nice wet meat mixture that's going to be really juicy, but it's not going to be floating in liquid. So that's cooled off sufficiently. The potatoes are done and mashed. I gotta let these cool off. Now the corn is cool too, so I'll put this together now. What I was gonna say is that, you know, I'm doing this to heat up later. You can just make this and put it in the oven right away if you want. You know, it doesn't have to be a make-ahead dish. Yeah, I find just kind of sprinkling the corn on there is good. You don't want to have to dig in around too much because you might upset the beef, but it doesn't really matter. Yeah, you can kind of nudge it around a little bit. Just try not to dig into it. Okay, so that's looking nice. Potatoes cooled down enough. I got a smaller spoon, because what you want to do is kind of just drop them. They will stick a bit. If you don't do it this way and kind of try to mash them around, you'll end up picking up all the corn. When you distribute them as evenly as you can, then what you do is you just get your spoon and start tamping it down. And if you got a couple of kernels of corn sticking up, it doesn't matter, because you're going to be covering this with the buttered breadcrumbs in a minute. Nearly looks like it's out of the factory, eh? And while I'm on the subject, if you food cost this out, depending on where you shop and what portion size you get, this is literally at least half price, if not perhaps 1/3 to 1/4 of the price, depending on where you shop and what they're gouging you for in the frozen food section. Alright, and of course anything homemade tastes like so much better. Okay, for this I get a glove again, and very gently sprinkle on the breadcrumbs. I prefer to do it light all over and then fill it in again, sort of like with the potatoes, because these as well do not spread well. Now when I say don't spread well, I mean more like you can't dump all of it on one side and kind of smear it out because it'll pick it up. But if you do kind of drop them semi-regularly, you can get in there very lightly with your fingertips and kind of just even them out a little bit without using much pressure. And if you are going to some potluck or something where you're going to have access to an oven, this is a great dish to bring along. So this is just going to get popped in the fridge right now, and I'll bake it later. I've got the oven preheated to 350 Fahrenheit. I just pulled this out of the fridge. Now I'm going to bake it for 45 minutes. It's been 45 minutes. It's looking pretty good. Time to plate some up there. And hopefully this will stay in one piece. No, it doesn't. It's a little messy coming out, but it's not out of the freezer. It's fresh, so it's a little sloppy. But yeah. So that's how I make shepherd's pie. The presentation isn't the best, but if you make it in little containers, it'll look like that. So thanks for watching. Hope you give this a shot. See you again.